Okay, Fabula Points. These are a narrative currency. You might also have heard them called meta currencies. They are like fate points in um, Fate, or momentum in Story Path or the Star Wars, not Star Wars, Star Trek game. Force points in Star Wars. Um, there are other such things like that. They are. This is the resource you're going to be spending when you're invoking when you're trying to do the fortune in the middle. Fabula points have can be invoked a trait for a reroll. And I'll get to traits later, but they are basic. That is a character creation thing. They are spent to invoke a bond to add a bonus. This can be after you roll. So, like you rolled, and there's a relevant emotional bond you have on the scene that could give you a bonus enough to take you over the edge. You can spend a Fabula point to get that bonus. You can spend Fabula points. You have to spend Fabula points to use some skills or to enhance some skills. This usually relates to relatively powerful effects. You can also spend Fabula points to add an element to the story or alter an element of the story. There are some courtesy rules to spending Fabula points to alter the story. Um, you want the change and add new details. You will need to give GM permission. You can't just do it. Um, if it directly affects the another player character, you will need their permission. You cannot use this to contradict a statement previously made by yourself or another participant. That means if the GM has stated that the dragon is awake, you cannot then use a Fabula point to say, you cannot use a Fabula point to say the dragon is asleep. I guess caveat to that is if it's an immediate thing, maybe, but that's kind of bad pool to be honest. Um, you cannot use this option to cause mechanical changes such as gaining or altering a skill, switching a character's vulnerabilities, stuff like that. You cannot suddenly decide that the dragon is vulnerable to ice, for example. If you introduce a new non-player character this way, that character will still be under the Game Master's control. I have this friend now. That is that is one of the things you can do. Now, one of the examples is the dragon's actually asleep, and what it is that they're trying to sneak into a dragon. Let's see here. They're trying to sneak into a dragon place, but and somebody suggests that the dragon is asleep, and because the game master did not specifically say the dragon was awake or asleep, they say, okay, fine, I'm fine with that. But it's not a magical sleep, so if you make noise, you're probably going to wake it up. Another one is that they no one in the party they discover a mirror, but no one in the party with or some ancient writing, but no one in the party can read that language. um, Somebody does decide to spend a point to say, hey, I know a scholar nearby that studies this and we can bring it to them, and the GM says, yep, that's cool. Which again gets to my thing of inventing your own fetch quest, and once the players are inventing their own fetch quest, you become emotionally invested, and it's much better than when a video game tells me, um, oh, suddenly you need to go and do this. I know that's the limits of the video games, but there you go. The third one is there being somebody who is a deserter notices they're being followed by a guard, and then they say, what if it's somebody in my old unit? And the GM is considering this briefly because this is not what they had planned, but this sounds interesting, so let's go with it. These are all three of these examples are ones where the GM went with it, but it is a case where the GM can say, unfortunately, no, that's not going to work. But it is a good idea to let some of this happen for one thing, the more they where I see at the bottom there, the spending Fabula points to tie the XP. At the end of a session, you total the number of Fabula points that are spent and divide that by the number of players, and that's how much XP everybody gets. I believe I can't remember if I think it's always rounded down. As to how you gain Fabula points, I probably should have made another thing for this. You gain them at the start of a session, you gain 1. Well, when you make a character, you have 3. At the start of session, you gain 1 Fabula point. When you fumble, you gain a Fabula point. When a villain makes an entrance during a scene, and that includes Game Master scenes where there are no PCs present, like a cutscene to show things happening that the players aren't there to see, that is a Fabula point. When somebody's reduced to 0 hit points and decides to surrender, you get 2 Fabula points. Whenever you invoke a bond or trait to automatically fail something, say, I have a theme of revenge. I'm going to fail at keeping my calm and actually cause a problem. You get a Fabula point. Stuff like that. So it is very much encouraged to spend the Fabula points because it causes the XP to happen. It pushes the plot forward. It involves your character's identity and background into the story because in order to spend the Fabula points, you have to have a bond or a trait or a skill relative to the situation. So it brings a personal touch and allows you to improvise character hooks into the story rather than having to plan them out.